Hey guys, this is Joe, coming at you with some of my opinions on the brand new first person test footage that was released by Kubold earlier this morning. And I just wanted to take a look at it with you guys and go over what I think about it and what it might mean for the game's future, in my own opinion, of course. So let's just take a look at this. So as you see, the camera's been moved to the head, and the game plays just as normal. Except, of course, it's not a traditional side view, as it shows in the top left corner right there. So this is going to be optional, which is nice that he's not committing to one or the other. Which leads me to the point that adding this kind of option in the game can actually help with a more hardcore simulator leaning audience, because even though the side view is really good as it is for, the tournament fighter kind of genre, and you get a good look at all the movements and everything that are going on, a lot of people prefer to have that extra immersion, to have their face in the character's face and see things from that perspective. And having it as an option, I think, is really inclusive to both the more casual audience and the more hardcore audience, which is a nice touch, I think. But one thing that I do have an issue with, if you see when he swings, let me just go back. So watch when he swings. Oh my gosh. You see that kind of gray, kind of translucent trail? I get why he did that, to kind of make it a little easier to see where your sword is and help with depth perception. But I don't think it's really necessary. I think it actually takes a lot away from the immersion of the game. But he can keep it in. I just like to have it as an option that you can turn on and off. And even having that as an option might open up, more options that can help people with the depth perception. Like, instead of just having the tip trail, kind of maybe just have the whole blade kind of have like a mesh traveling through space that you can see. If you've ever played Chivalry Medieval Warfare, I'm dating myself a bit, but if you ever played that, there was a console command where you could see exactly when your weapon does damage and the path that it takes, and it helps a lot to know how you can move your attacks. So anyway, moving on. Really like how instead of redoing, certain aspects of the first-person view model, like a lot of first-person shooters will do, it's just the camera moves, so everything that's happening in actual space is happening, in both perspectives. So you get all of the animations and everything from their perspective, and I think that's really cool that he decided to add that. And here we're getting some first-person footage of the rapier character, which is nice to see that we're getting more examples of the characters we haven't had a chance to play yet. And I think playing with this character in a first-person perspective will be really cool, because, while the other characters can slash and their movement's more lateral with their weapon, hers is much more precise, so having the first-person perspective can really help you put your point exactly where you want it and see where it's going to go. So just a note there. Another thing that I just noticed, the gray weapon trail doesn't seem to be active right now. So maybe it is a option that you can enable and disable. So that's good. Another big question that I know the community for this game has right now is this game going to release with some form of multiplayer, not just faked split screen over third-party clients or Steam remote play. But is it going to have its own matchmaking or servers, that kind of stuff. And a lot of the information that I've seen from Kubold so far has pointed towards he's thinking about it, but he's programmed this whole game to be physics based, and it works. It's tied to the frame rate of your computer in some way. So if you notice, if you tried to run this game with a computer that couldn't run the game at a solid 60 frames per second, the movement would appear really slow, and that's because these are active ragdolls and they work off of a physics engine, and everything is just basically real-time physics and ragdolls, and it's tied to your hardware. When it can't run the game at the 60 frames that it's designed for, it doesn't work quite right. And the problem, according to Kubold that I've seen in the forums, according to him, the problem with trying to make online matchmaking and servers and stuff like that is that he has to completely redo the physics, because instead of the physics calculations and the ragdolls working client side off of your hardware, they'd have to work off the server. And I'm not really big on, programming and servers and all that. I know a little bit, but very rudimentary. I'd assume that's a very complex undertaking that he's not quite focused on at the moment. But obviously he will have to address it in a more serious way at some point, because that's going to be a breaking point for some people that are wanting to buy the game, but they won't buy it if it's only single player or local. But I'm mentioning all this because the first person's perspective, you obviously can't do split screen with that. I mean, you might be able to do some jank thing where the person controls, controls the other character across, but that's just not a very playable experience, I wouldn't think. But if he's added this as an option, could it maybe mean that online multiplayer is maybe a more serious consideration down the road? I don't know. It would seem so. Obviously, if he was building the game, from the ground up as a single player or local multiplayer only option, the first person perspective wouldn't be very conducive to a split screen gameplay. Of course, it could be completely wrong, and he's just adding it because it's cool, which is, fine. It is pretty cool, I think. But obviously, the only way to play multiplayer with first-person perspective would be online. So maybe that's an indicator that it's being worked on, or maybe being considered in a more serious manner. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But anyway, that's my 2 cents on this video and the footage that was released. I hope you found it entertaining and useful. And y'all have a good one.